Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this council meeting to order for March 10th, and we need the roll call.
Haig. Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Would anybody care to make a motion for that? I forgot.
Second.
Haig. Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Abstain.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, first item is under item number 4 is we have an ordinance which requires 2 readings by title only and passage. Bill number 2025, and it has to do with a supplemental agreement. Mr. Schleicher.
Yes, Sean. As council knows, we have a BRO grant through the Department of Transportation to replace the Pollock Road Bridge. And due to some unexpected delays that we've had, we need to extend the deadline in order to get through the process and to cover the details. Drew Williford.
Oh, good evening, council. As Bruce mentioned, this is the Pollock Road Bridge Replacement Program, BRO R1191. And we actually executed a supplemental agreement to extend our deadline. The deadline involves the procedure of actually getting a contract for construction. That is the key deadline we're dealing with. The original deadline for the project was November 1st of 24. At that point, we extended because we had some delays due to wetland mitigation and right-of-way acquisition, at which point we extended to March 1st of 25. You may note that it is past that date, and we did have a bid opening just last week on this project, so everything is going very well. The bids came back very close to the engineer's estimate, but we do need to execute another supplemental agreement to extend that deadline just for the record, so it's all good on paper. The next agreement, supplemental agreement number 2, would extend the deadline to September 1st. There's no cost associated with this. This is just purely a extension of a deadline on paper. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Move for first reading of Bill 2025-11.
Second.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Bill 2025-11, ordinance authorizing city manager to sign supplemental agreement number 2 with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Pollock Road Bridge, BRO-R1191. Move for second reading.
Second.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Bill 2025-11, ordinance authorizing city manager to sign supplemental agreement number 2 with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission for Pollock Road Bridge, BRO-R1191. Move for passage of 2025-11.
Second.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 5, resolutions. These require reading by title only and passage, and the first one has to do with agreements with various organizations for funding. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. The Tourism Commission has met, reviewed applications for funding, and has made recommendations to council. And to cover those recommendations, Roger Haynes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The Tourism Commission met via Zoom on Wednesday, February 26th, and as part of that meeting, reviewed 6 different applications for funding. The first was from Mexico FFA chapter for their first annual truck and tractor pull, which will be held on Saturday, May 10th at the 4-H Fairgrounds. The amount requested was $5,000. The amount recommended by the Commission is $2,000, and again, this is a new event. The second request is from the Freedom of Road Riders, Local 13, for a car show veterans cruise. That will be held on Saturday, May 17th. The request for advertising is $800, and the amount recommended is $800. This organization was funded in the amount of $650 in 2023 and $800 in 2024. The third request is from the Mexico Young Farmers for their 2025 truck and tractor pull, which will be held Saturday, August 30th at the 4-H Fairgrounds. They are requesting $6,400, and the amount recommended is $5,000. They have been funded in 2021 and 2022 in the amount of $4,500, and in 2023 and 2024 in the amount of $5,000. The fourth request is from the Mexico VSA Salty Heifers Company in a new event, the 2025 Jeep Invasion, to be held on Saturday, June 28th in the downtown area. The amount requested is $5,000, and the amount recommended by council is $2,000. The fifth request is from the Mexico Tourism Commission to continue advertising in the Missouri Life magazine along with associated publications. The budget for this is $16,450. The amount of the request is $16,875, and they, of course, recommended the $16,875. They reviewed three different options. One on the high tier was $18,023, and the middle tier was $16,875, and the basic tier was $15,000. The Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization is requesting funding for the 2025 Miss Missouri competition, which will be held June 11th through the 14th, a Wednesday through Saturday. The requested amount is $10,000, and the amount recommended is $8,500. They were funded in the amount of $8,000 in 2021 and 2022, and funded in the amounts of $8,500 in the years of 2023, 2024. Staff recommends that council concur with the Mexico Tourism Commission's recommendation and proceed with reading by title only and passage of the attached resolution.
Okay.
I move for reading of bill number 2025-12.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Yes, excuse me.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Bill number 2025-12, a resolution authorizing city manager to execute agreements with various organizations for recommended funding from the Mexico Tourism Tax. I move for passage of bill number 2025-12.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all. And we'll move on to item B, which is bill number 2025-13, resolution authorizing manager to enter an agreement with Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. This resolution is for their annual support to assist them in their event. And this is an annual allotment. And to cover the details, once again, Roger Haynes.
Once I do my part here, Alice Leonardi would like the opportunity to address the podium and speak with council. And she is, of course, the Miss Missouri Executive Director. The 2024-25 annual budget allows $10,000 for use by Miss Missouri Organization Incorporated. The city has been providing general fund support to the Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization for several years, with contributions being at the $10,000 level since 2001, with the exception of the 2020 fiscal year, which was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Staff recommends that the City of Mexico and the Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization Incorporated enter into an agreement promoting tourism, and council proceed with reading by title only and passage of the attached resolution.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for your ongoing support of Miss Missouri through the many years. We're going to be crowning the 55th Miss Missouri this year.
Which one, how many?
Huh?
25?
55.
55.
Okay.
Yep. So, and technically, we've been part of the city organization for 56 years, but as Roger mentioned, 2020, we had to step back for a year and because of COVID. But this year, we will be having 21 Miss and 22 teens participating, and there's also a mentoring little sister program called the Show Me Stars, and there are normally about 50-plus little girls participating in that. They're paired with one of the contestants musicians all week and get to appear with them on stage and whatever. It's a great program that winds up giving each year probably between $10,000 and more raises for our scholarships that we're giving out. This year, we will be awarding $87,000 in scholarships the week of Miss Missouri, which I think is a huge tribute to our organization. And, we get a lot of donations from all over, but the huge amount of support comes from this community. So on behalf of the Miss Missouri organization, I want to thank you all for your loyal support and all you've done over these many, many years, and the lives of young women that you have touched and impacted, and all the way back to the days when Larry Weber was doing stuff and getting us here. So.
Good hair. When you get hair.
So thank you all for all you have done, and because truly we cannot do it without your support. But I think it's a win-win, because during that week, we have hundreds of extra people in town who are filling our hotels, eating at our restaurants, filling up at the gas stations, all those things. So when we've checked tax sales receipts in past years, the week before and the week after are never quite as high as the week of Miss Missouri. So I think this makes a positive impact on our community, as well as our community making a positive impact on Miss Missouri. So thank you all so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alice.
Can I add one thing to your, Alice? It's not just that event. I see you guys hold events for these people all through the year, because a lot of the same girls come through for other events. So it's not just that one week. There's other stuff.
Yeah, that week is obviously the biggest thing, but we'll have April the 12th, we have orientation that weekend, which will be at MMA, which is kind of the last hurrah for getting ready. And a lot of the directors and the young women and their families come in the night before, fill up the hotels, eat in the places. So yes, there is a lot. The big push is during the week of Miss Missouri, but yeah, there's impact throughout the rest of the year. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Alice.
Make a motion to read Bill number 2025-13.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bill number 2025-13, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Miss Missouri Scholarship Organization to provide tourism activities for the city of Mexico, Missouri. I move for passage of Bill number 2025-13.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, the last thing under resolutions, we have another bill, 2025-14. It has to do with accepting a temporary construction easement. Mr. Schley.
Yes, Your Honor, as part of our stormwater improvement projects, this is for East Anderson, and again, we need to get approval to work a little outside of the right-of-way during the project. Therefore, easements, and to cover the details, Drew Williford.
Good evening, Council. As Bruce mentioned, this relates to our DNR, American Rescue Plan Act grant that we have for stormwater improvements throughout the city. This particular location is East Anderson Street, just actually right outside here, and then it actually turns to go down Jefferson to the town branch. We have met with the residents who are impacted. Not all residents along this area are impacted for a temporary construction easement. No permanent easements are part of all of this. So all of this will dissipate, be gone once, or expire, I probably should say, once the project is completed. We're bringing these before you as we get an entire project completely signed so that we can get that project out the door and moving. If we wait until we have multiples of these, we might be waiting several months and delay a contractor. In essence, in this case, Sam Gaines Construction is the contractor on this project. There are a total of 9 easements that will be needed to proceed with construction. And as I mentioned last time, for North Washington Street, DNR, Department of Natural Resources, has a certification process that is required to be gone through for this. We have provided the files to our attorney. He has provided that certification, so we intend to submit all of this DNR and get a pre-construction meeting set up with Sam Gaines Construction ASAP. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I move for reading, I move for reading of bill number 2025-14.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Bill number 2025-14, a resolution authorizing the City of Mexico, Missouri to accept temporary construction easements for the East Anderson Street Stormwater Improvement Project being part of ARPA grant number DNRSW 74-5E-73-C5 9FEE. I move for passage of bill number 2025-14.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
I think you should have to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Used to.
I know.
Moving on to other business, looks like we are buying a patrol car. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. Staff report here. This particular year is a rotation for only one vehicle this year for the Public Safety Department. We do have a budget of $45,000. We have got bids from all of the state bidding contracts, and to cover the details of those bids and the recommendation, Chief Bryce Miscott.
Good evening, Council. As Mr. Slagle said, the current budget allowed for $45,000 for the purchase of one patrol SUV. We contacted the three fleet dealerships in the state that had the state bid contracts. That was Don Brown Chevrolet, Joe Mockins Ford, and Landmark Dodge. They had the state bid contract pricing for the Tahoe, the Ford Explorer, and the Dodge Durango. The pricing came in, and it's in your letter, with the Tahoe being $58,902, the Explorer $45,936, and the Durango being $41,899. Because the Explorer and Durango seemed like they would be within budget, we did check into trade-in value with both of those dealerships, and they both agreed to give us $4,000 for the 2019 Dodge Charger. We are looking to trade in. It currently has 128,900 miles on it, and it is still in use. For the past several years, we've been purchasing Dodges, both Chargers and Durangos, from Landmark Dodge through their state bid contract pricing. What we've found is that model years 2022 and 2023 have started experiencing a number of mechanical and servicing issues, and while those issues are being repaired under warranty, the vehicles are out of service for extended periods of time, which gives us some other hardships. So we did, because they were relatively close in pricing, check around with other law enforcement agencies in the area who use the Ford Explorer, and it was given positive reviews everywhere we checked. So because of all of that, the staff is recommending that council approves the purchase of one 2025 Ford Explorer patrol vehicle from Joe Mockins out of Columbia for the purchase price of $41,936 after trade-in, and that's subject to the bidder's ability to deliver the vehicle at an acceptable length of time and to meet the bid specifications. And if you have any questions, I can answer them. Hopefully.
I guess I have one, Chief. I know that these are the state fleet contracts or dealerships or whatever you want to call them. Do we solicit local bids also?
The one in town, the Chevrolet.
Yeah, there's only one.
Right. And that's actually kind of part of the issue too. Yeah, they'd have to purchase it, I think, to meet that pricing, actually from Don Brown, and then charge more than that.
Okay, so they can't independently give us a price?
Not better than the state.
It would be way out of line?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
That's what I was asking, I guess.
And they're police interceptors too, so it's not going to be taking stock one and throw it all the year on it and make.
I don't know, some of the people that seem to run from the police seem to do a pretty good job. Stop stuff.
Well, that's what we want to stop, right?
There you go.
Those are called pedestrian interceptors.
Yeah.
Those are called fugitives. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to purchase police car from Joe Mockins Ford, the 2025 Ford Explorer.
Second,
Thank you, Chief.
if you need a second.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, and now for the really exciting event on our agenda, and that is the feasibility study. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor, we are here tonight to cover the City Hall Public Safety Feasibility Study that we have had done by Navigate Building Solutions. To give you a little bit of history, reference this particular structure here, is this building was built prior to 1910 as an Elks Lodge. And we don't have the exact date, but what we do have is a picture from 1910 that shows the building was here. So that's the best we can come up with. There, and then by the mid-1900s, the building was transformed into an office building that did house the Better Refractories and the Kaiser Refractories corporate office. And then in 1970, the building was converted into City Hall, and in 76, the fire station was added, and then 98, the elevator and stairwell. The current facility houses the offices for the city manager, city clerk, administrative services, information technology, municipal court, parks, recreation, public safety, community development, engineering, economic development, public works, and fire stations. So we have about 70 employees that work out of this facility. Like many facilities that are aging, we do have a number of deficiencies that exist. Not limited to, but public access, structural, electrical overloading, HVAC, plumbing, security concerns, data, telecommunication connections, record storage, meeting and conference space in general, space in general. The Public Safety Department, as you know, is located in the basement. Multiple officers have to share space. There is no secure area for loading and unloading prisoners, and in fact, they do have to go up and down a flight of steps when they enter the building. A lot of inadequate space when it comes to training and meeting space and evidence storage and so on. The current fire station does have 3 apparatus bays with more trucks than that. They do have to be backed in, and so therefore, depending on the response, at times, a vehicle may need to be moved for another vehicle to respond. And we do not have any space at all for decontamination of equipment and so on. So that has created some issues for us. As council has been working on this issue for some time in hopeful preparation of this, the city begun the process of purchasing the entire city block across the street from City Hall. The final property purchase on that block was actually done in 2013. But however, due to COVID and the hospital closing, it did set this project back. Unfortunately, during that time, the cost to construct has more than doubled to approximately $500 a square foot, therefore making the cost certainly for completing a full new structure to be very difficult to afford. Now we've had an option to consider the reuse of the old cancer center and share the old hospital campus site with a new hospital. This has created an option that is far more affordable, and that was what we took a look at to consider, and council authorized the hiring of Navigate to do that and come back to us with ideas and a site plan to see how all of that could work together. And they've done the feasibility study, they've done the space and needs side of this thing, so they've put this together for us. We appreciate their work. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Navigate Building Solutions, and Katie's going to start us off.
First off, I'd just like to thank you all for having us here this evening. As Mr. Slagle mentioned, my name is Katie Aholt, and I am the director at Navigate Building Solutions of what we call our local government division. So what that means for you all is we work with many municipalities throughout the state of Missouri on similar type projects, city hall, police, fire, really any type of city-owned property. We've managed those types of projects. Here's a little slide that just talks a little bit more about us. So we are an owner's representative. What that means is that we are not architects or designers, and we're not builders. We like to call ourselves really a temporary extension of your staff. We come on board to help facilitate the design and construction of your projects, and once complete, turn those over to you for occupancy and operations ongoing. So like I mentioned, most of our projects are either municipal related, or we also have a K through 12 group, which follows kind of a similar process to what you all do here at the City of Mexico. All right, joining me here tonight, we do have John Emmert with Gemma, so I'm going to let him introduce his company. Gemma is a local architect to us here, or in the St. Louis area, again, experience in municipal projects, and we brought them on board to help support the programming and more design-related elements of this effort.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to present the work we've completed to date. So as Katie said, we're architects and interior designers. We've been in business since 2010. We have 22 on staff. We've done quite a few municipal projects around the region, including police, fire, city hall, combined police and fire stations. A few photographs on this slide, and then a list of municipalities and districts we've worked with in the region. Currently, we have under construction a large facility for St. Louis County for their police and intelligence division, and then also for St. Charles, City of St. Charles, new City Hall, which is bidding currently a few current projects in the region. So again, we really appreciate the opportunity to work with the city on developing your new feasibility for your new facility. So appreciate it.
Okay, so what we're going to walk you through here this evening is really a brief agenda. We'll leave time at the end for questions and to make sure that we're addressing any comments from you all as well. So as part of our feasibility study, Navigate and Gemma were asked to do existing building tours. So we were able to walk through your space here at City Hall, as well as the space for public safety and the new building that we are reviewing for your potential redevelopment. From there, we had a series of programming discussions, and what programming means is we start to talk about the size of spaces, the types of spaces, the area of spaces, really in almost like a spreadsheet format. So we go through and we generate a list of those spaces before we start fitting them into the space that's available, and John will talk a little bit more in detail about that. From there, we were able to take the program and really make a site plan and start blocking out those spaces in the existing cancer center facility. And that allowed us to put some cost to this. So Navigate has a strong history of municipal projects, like I've mentioned. So we have a lot of cost data for what it takes to build these types of facilities. So we're able to build upon that and apply costs both from a construction standpoint and a total program budget standpoint to your particular project. The last couple slides we'll go through are a conceptual schedule, and then, like I mentioned, will be available for any questions and answers. This slide here really just shows the same thing I covered in a more graphic standpoint. So again, took the information from the tours, the feedback we received from the user group discussions with both Mr. Slagle and the chief, rolled that into some block diagrams, had some refinements and kind of good information gathering still throughout that process that informed both our estimate and schedule. All right, so Mr. Slagle gave a good history of this particular building, so this slide just shows you on a site plan what that looks like. So the existing City Hall building is approximately 8,000 square feet, spread over multiple levels. Public safety building is approximately 8,850 square foot, again, kind of split between a basement and main level. We always like to put these photos in here because it just gives a snapshot. It's a different perspective to see it in a photo than when you're walking through it. So again, it's a facility that served its purpose. It's still in good condition, but you've outgrown it. So you can see that here. There's clutter in spaces. Spaces have been repurposed. You're making it work for the function that you need. The same goes for the public safety portion. So again, good infrastructure, good bones. It's just dated and aged and in need of replacement. We'll flip here to the hospital site. So in the red box, you can see the proposed location of the City Hall and Public Safety project. There is some buildings that were built in the late 1990s, so around 1998, that we're looking at in particular for this project. So good infrastructure, good systems in place that are able to be reused and salvaged to a certain extent to support your project. Also point out on the right-hand side of the picture, there's an approximately 1,900 square foot linear accelerator building that was built in about 2005. So I point this out because this particular addition to this building is something that we've studied its value for you all as we move forward into this project. Again, just a couple more photos of the existing hospital building. Looks dark and gray in wintertime, but overall it's in pretty good shape, both on the exterior and interior, for reuse and repurposing as your city hall and public safety. All right, I'm going to turn it over to John. He's going to walk through, like I said, the program development and some of the site plans and concepts that have been developed.
All right, thanks, Katie. So as Katie mentioned, after the existing building tours, the next step in the process to determine feasibility is a programming session. So we met multiple times with city staff to determine what spaces need to go into the new facility. So if you recall the previous slides, we're at approximately 23,000 square feet in the existing building. So now we need to determine how much square footage we need going into the new facility, what will work within that existing footprint, and what, if any, do we need to add on to that existing building to make it work. So after those initial meetings, we identify all the different spaces. You'll see in the spreadsheet images on the left, those are each individual space. So that's broken down by offices, conference rooms, janitorial closets, support spaces, everything that's going to go into the new facility. Once we determine all those different spaces, we apply square footages to it. So what is the square footage required for a space like this to accommodate a certain number of people? Same for offices and conference rooms. So once that square footage is developed, you'll see those are the numbers that are on the left-hand side of the summary of those spaces. So we broke it down by public safety facility spaces and city hall spaces. And then we have additional line items for the Sally Port and apparatus space. So that gives us a 1 square footage that then we take and apply. You'll see the gross up factor for circulation. So those are all your corridors and vertical circulation, including stairs and elevators. And then we add another factor to that for the exterior wall, the envelope of the building, to arrive at our grand total gross building square footage of 33,500. So that's a target, right? So that's based on a very efficient building, based on the spaces that are required to go in a new facility, what our target square footage is for going into a new facility to accommodate all the current needs of the city as well as potential future growth. So we're not necessarily building this facility for today, but we want to understand what the needs are of the city in the future as well when we determine that square footage. So once we have that square footage in mind, we start looking at our existing building site. So you'll see here, we looked initially at 2 different concepts. As I mentioned before, the existing building was approximately 23,000 square feet, so we're looking at 10 to 15,000 square foot addition onto this building. A majority of that addition would accommodate public safety functions, including a new apparatus bay for the apparatus of the public safety functions. So if you recall, the building is split between 2 different levels. So the lower level is defined by this covered entry area into a main entry, lower level, and then we have a secondary entry on this upper level, which is circulation between the 2 levels via elevator and stair. So we looked at 2 different configurations of the apparatus bay itself. One was coming out onto what would be an extension of Horde Street, so that would run north-south. And then we looked at another apparatus bay configuration which comes out onto East Jackson. This configuration shows what could be a drive-through apparatus bay. This configuration shows what is a back-end apparatus bay configuration. It was determined after looking at these studies that it made more sense to connect to a through street, which would get the apparatus out onto Horde and then be able to go north-south very easily. We also accommodate a large apron in front of the apparatus bay doors, which allows us easy back in for the apparatus itself. So once we determined the configuration that we wanted to go out onto Horde Street, we looked at accommodating the program within the lower level being the city hall functions and upper level being public safety functions with the addition of the apparatus bay and some support spaces. So we looked at a series of options, ultimately landing on what is referred to in this diagram as A2. So in this option, all of the public safety facility functions are on the upper level. City Hall is all on the lower level. We did look at configurations where that linear accelerator extension is as being a new council chamber. So originally, we did look at reusing that space, but the way it's constructed with very thick concrete walls was very inefficient space and really became just storage at that point when we started looking at uses for it. So in these options, that linear accelerator addition comes off of the end of the building, and then we look at an addition of a council chambers. So once we determined that we were looking at all lower level city hall functions with some configuration of council chambers, we started plugging in all of those programmatic spaces into the floor plan. We're not necessarily defining where exactly every space goes within the footprint, but we want to make sure that all the program will fit within that footprint and work from an adjacency standpoint. So we looked at a couple different options, ultimately landing on what is A2 here, but ultimately we'll call it A4 because there's a little bit of a tweak to it. It's kind of a hybrid between the A1 and A2 option. But big picture, again, all city hall functions lower level with the main covered portico entry with that large parking lot on that lower level with an addition of a council chambers and some offices and some support spaces. The upper level is defined by all public safety facility functions, an addition of a sally port, which for those who don't know that term, it's a secure entry for prisoner processing and booking. So the vehicles are able to pull into that garage area, book the prisoner without any interaction with public functions. And then we do have a large apparatus bay addition on that upper level as well. So here you can start to see how that lays out on the site. We do have to the north of the facility, northwest, we do have a secure parking lot. So that's intended to be a fenced, secure parking lot for public safety vehicles. We do have a large existing mechanical yard which stays. And then this hatched area is the addition, upper level addition to the facility, including the apparatus bay, which comes out onto what would be a new connecting Horde Street. We do have a new parking lot on this upper level, which would take you into the public safety facility entry. And then you see the existing lower level parking lot. With the addition of the council chambers, we are able to keep a drive-through. In this instance, it's one way to that covered portico area main entry on that lower level into City Hall. So you can see in this facility, it sets up really nicely to have that separation between City Hall public functions and then the public safety functions, allowing for secure lots and separation of the apparatus driving out onto Horde Street to get north and south. So here you start to see how that lower level lays out. You do come into the existing main entry here into a lobby where we have a series of transaction windows for all of the City Hall functions which require interaction with the public. Again, high-level color coding. We have administration areas, which are shown in the green color, administrative finance in this light blue. We show building common areas as gray. So there are a lot of mechanical spaces within this existing building that we are keeping, obviously keeping the existing vertical circulation with the stairs and the elevators. You'll see the council chamber addition off to the side. So this is accessed directly off of the public lobby. So the idea here is that all of these functions within City Hall could be locked down. After hours, you would have public access into the lobby space. There's an existing restroom core that we keep in place, enter into the council chambers. There is a back staff entry into the chamber area. We have a closed session conference room, city manager's office, coffee bar area, AV closet, and some storage. So that keeps this whole area public, separated from what would be secure doors into the back of house City Hall functions. We do have offices for Parks and Rec, in addition to public interaction, transaction window. Again, the public area is defined, and then public works and development offices around the perimeter. We do have large archival storage, and then some existing restrooms that are sprinkled throughout the facility. The idea is to reuse as much of that lower level as we can. A big expense is moving or adding new restrooms. So in this case, we're able to keep all the existing restrooms in place and use the plumbing that's in place. So that saves quite a bit of money on that lower level build out. The upper level, you'll see there, this is the communicating stair and elevator that connects to that lower level. This is that existing entry into that upper level space. So we have, in this instance, a much smaller, secure public lobby space. So you come into this vestibule, you're greeted immediately by this front desk receptionist. We have restrooms accessed off of this corridor. Then we have a series of public safety administrative functions within this blue area, including some hard and soft interview spaces that are accessed directly off of the lobby. You'll see this large gray area. That's actually a large existing mechanical space. So we're hoping to capture some of that space back for the facility, but right now, at the stage we're at, we just don't know how much of that existing mechanical equipment we'll be able to take out of that space. A lot of that we think is backfeeding a lot of the hospital building that's coming down ultimately. So we don't want to assume that we're going to be able to take some of this space, so that is a decent chunk of square footage that's just allocated for mechanical right now. We do have a large training exercise room up in this existing large space. This is all evidence, property control, processing up in this corner of the facility. We have a linking corridor, so this wall from here over is essentially the existing building. Everything to the left of that is new single-story addition. So you'll see this is that back-end Sallyport area, booking and processing. In this area, we do have a staff entry off of that back secure lot. So the secure lot, you never interact with any of the public parking. You're always in this back secure entry area. We do have a series of locker rooms and fitness facility that serves the public safety functions. We do have day room, kitchen areas for the fire functions, and then direct access into the apparatus bay with a series of support spaces off of the apparatus bay serving these functions. So you see the dashed lines in there are the actual physical footprint of the current apparatus and how they fit within that space. So we do have large 14-foot overhead doors to accommodate easy entry and access, exit out of that space. So here you start to see how that lays out from a 3D standpoint. So the light red areas, those are the additions to the existing building. So you'll see here, we're keeping that entry, covered entry space. We do have the council chamber addition on the end here. And then we do have the single story with the higher bay apparatus bay space on this end, a large apron connecting to what would be a connecting Horde Street running north-south. Some public parking up top, which gets you into the public safety entrance, and then secure parking lot in the back part of the facility. And then this is another view looking from the north back. So I'll turn it back over to Katie, and she can talk numbers.
Okay, so the first slide you see up here is the construction cost estimate. So when we do an estimate, even at this conceptual level, we're able to break it down by CSI division and even, farther than this. So there's several pages of detail that support the numbers that you see here. But big picture, the construction cost for the option that John just walked us through is about $8.5 million. We did put estimates to all three of the options, had a similar range of magnitude on those prices, but option 2 that we've seen here was the most cost-effective, and it was actually preferred to meet the needs that we talked about during those programming efforts. So a couple of other notes. This is a construction-only cost estimate that you see on this slide. So you'll see a subtotal that gets you to about $7.3 million. You'll see some construction markups that we apply on projects which cover the general contractor's general conditions, overhead and profit, payment and performance bonds, so that total of about $8.5 million at the bottom of the page. One thing I'll point out as well is the construction estimate total cost per square foot is about $243. So Bruce mentioned if you started from a new building, you'd be in the $500 range. So because you're able to reuse the existing structure and envelope and a lot of the site improvements, the cost is dramatically reduced, even factoring in that this has those additions built into the number. Flipping to the next slide here, this is what we call the total program budget. So I mentioned the last slide we looked at was the value of the potential construction contract, which was an $8.5 million number. You'll see, transferring that over to this slide, the value is about $9.9 million. So the difference there is that we have factored in about 6% for escalation cost, knowing that this project will not bid until, a time in the future. We did some calculations today, and the last year escalation was about 3.5% per year. So this theoretically buys you about 2 years to get through design and into construction with what we factored here. Obviously, tariffs are a big unknown right now, but this is a safe escalation factor that we've applied looking forward into the project. In addition to this, we've applied a 10% contingency. We like to call this more our construction contingency. It's something we carry even going into construction on our projects. We don't like to spend this all during design. We know, especially on renovation projects, you're going to hit unforeseen conditions or find things that you weren't anticipating to be there. So this is that contingency that's carried to cover those unforeseen conditions. The next several categories on this slide here are what we call the soft cost or owner directs. So we go through an exercise of estimating everything outside of the construction value to give you this total program budget. So you'll see here a budget for special construction. We're carrying a small amount for permits. FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, is the next category. So we have assumed some new items in this budget, but we've also assumed that a lot of what's here existing in City Hall can be moved over. Professional services will pick up things like your design fees, project management, any materials testing, special inspections, any of those other services that are required to produce a full project. Technology picks up things like your IT infrastructure, your data racks, your phones, security cameras, card access, AV systems. Those are all included in the technology line item. For financing costs, we know that you own this property already, but there may potentially be some financing fees that you pay as a result of obtaining the funds for the project, so we've allocated a small portion of money to pay for those things out of the project's budget. And then miscellaneous gets into just all of the odds and ends, so we know there may be some costs to pay movers to move things over, things like printing of bid documents, advertising for bids, so the miscellaneous category captures those things. And then lastly, we talked about the construction contingency above. We also suggest at this level of concept that you carry an owner contingency. A good example of this is, maybe you get into this and you decide, hey, we'd like to buy new furniture. We thought we could move things, but it turns out we're going to need to purchase some additional items. We like to have a budget available for you to make decisions through the design process on, changes that maybe need to be made. Maybe you think of something that, hey, we left off here, we'd like to head this direction. So we build it in really as a buffer for you all to control the design and decisions throughout the next phases of the project. So in total, the total program budget or owner's program budget we are presenting here tonight is $12,830,000 or $830,900. So.
Okay, anybody, questions, comments?
Wow,
Go ahead.
I just said, wow,
Oh, yeah, wowee. So your budget, you said it was $200-something a square foot, but when I took 12 million just alone divided by your 33,526, it was $357 a square foot. So where's
Correct.
the
Yes.
difference?
So the $243 a square foot is construction cost only.
Okay.
So when you factor in the soft cost and owner directs that we've outlined here on that slide, that's in addition to that, so that gets you closer to that $350 mark.
Okay. I got lots of questions, but they really aren't for you. I guess they're really for our side. I'm not. There's like 30 offices in the bottom, so I don't know why we can't keep the one part, not deconstruct, reconstruct. Why can't we? But those are questions we'll have to talk about. So.
In your total cost, you said it's construction cost. Does that include asphalt overlays on what's there, asphalt pavement, fence around the closed-in area, landscaping? Is this a complete project?
Yes, it is a complete project. So I mentioned that there are several pages of backup to the estimate. We have that all itemized out. So if you have specific questions about what's included in the cost, we can certainly take a deeper dive into those numbers, yes.
I guess I had a question, and maybe Chief will be the person to answer, but I know we have 3 bays now for fire apparatus.
Correct.
And this would be 4?
Correct.
But I guess one of the things that I thought was mentioned early on was that we had to back all the equipment in. In this particular scenario doesn't show, it still shows backing in. It doesn't show a pull-through like the one that had the X on it did. What's, is that an issue?
No, so that was part of the whole exploration with all the meetings we've had, and it just seems that it would overall fit better in the project if we continue to back in, which we can do. We've done it a long time. I think a lot of new fire stations you see have drive-through bays, but that's usually actually like in suburban type areas. If you look at metro areas, they're backing stuff in all the time because they just don't have the space. So we can handle that, and I think the benefits from doing this will outweigh that negative.
Okay.
The platform in front of the fire station is big, but when you come to back into there, are you going to be in Horde Street and then back into there, or are we going to go across Horde Street and back in from a straight shot? I mean, if we had
It'd be much like what we're doing right now.
Okay.
The apron, the tarmac, whatever we're going to refer to it as, is actually long enough to support 213, the longest apparatus, in and of itself. So it's a matter of turning as we go in, and just like we do here on Cole Street.
I guess I mentioned sometime previously concern about access for fire equipment and pulling out onto Horde Street, and I knew when Horde Street was there before. That seemed like an awfully small area to maneuver equipment and with any kind of timeliness, kind of speed, if you will. And I know we don't have perfect access here, but we got a pretty wide street that gets access to highways pretty easily. It just looks to me like it's going to be cramped, for lack of a better term.
So-
That's not a builder's term, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Coming
No,
north
that's
on
technical
Hord's going to be really tight.
Yep. Yep.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Coming north on Hord's going to be really tight. Going south,
When you
you've
get
got a
up to
little
this
bit more space,
intersection.
but north's terribly small.
So one advantage we have is that, Horde Street doesn't exist currently connecting those two, north and south. Used to, right. So a couple things. One, we increased the width or length of the apparatus apron to 60 feet, so it gives them a little bit more breathing room from where the apparatus bay doors are to what would be the new connecting Horde Street. We did run turning radius studies with the biggest apparatus that they have getting in and out of here, which would determine the ultimate width of Horde Street for that stretch, for that block. So getting in and out of the apparatus bays, I think we definitely have accommodated that in the depth of the apron and then as well as what would ultimately be the width of Horde Street itself, since we can kind of determine what that width is. Now, once you get to the other intersections and head north-south, that's, I think that would be a matter of whether or not you wanted to possibly adjust some of these intersections.
Well,
when you
your street
connect.
doesn't line up with Horde, so both ends.
Correct.
A turn.
Yep,
And
yeah.
You talked about earlier about this not just being for today, this concept, but for future. Are we considering future for public safety the same way? Do we need more equipment? Are we figuring, what are we going to need 20 years from now? I hope this isn't thinking we're going to replace this 10 years from now, but have we considered what we're going to need in public safety specifically 20 years from now? How the equipment's going to change, how much bigger it's going to be, how much smaller it's going to be, what?
Sure, I didn't know how much I should talk, but yeah, so when you start talking about number of bays, amount of equipment, you're talking about on the fire side.
Right.
Actually, as Mexico grows, and it's actually been talked about the whole time I've been here, there's discussions of needs for other stations, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know that's why the South property exists, right? So the need to expand a main Station 1, I don't think that's actually an option where we could go if in fact Mexico continues to grow and grow in the direction that it's growing. If we're going to stay with kind of modern response ideas and so I think this would be very adequate for a Station 1 now and moving forward through the future.
does your estimate include building Horde Street?
No,
Or is that a city cost?
that'd be the city costs or our capital improvement fund. We laid that separate.
So what do we estimate Horde Street would cost?
Drew, did you look at that at all at this point?
No, if you wanted a rough guess, rough estimate based on some other projects we're seeing, you could be in the 300 to 500,000 range.
Okay, and that's just the section you're replacing, not the other two-way. I mean, Horde Street going north, you're going to have to take part of the parking lot of the hospital.
They have to.
And knock it down.
Yeah, we would likely do that.
Then when you get to Love Street, how do you get the traffic stop? Are we going to have to put some kind of fire lights out there you see in the city where?
They have that problem now.
Yeah, you could do that, but yeah, it's much like you just said. I mean, we're jacking around with Low Street all the time, right? So
Yeah.
I understand we've already looked at it. It's just over the crest of the hill. So that may be something we might want to do some kind of a warning light or something like that.
Where you deal with Love Street, you can see both ways. When you go down Horde going north, you get to that brick wall that's 12 feet tall. I know the fire truck's tall, but you're limiting your eyesight some. I just want to know what all the fees are. I mean, the street costs more money. So if it costs $300,000 to $500,000 to put in that street, it's going to cost another $300,000 to fix Horde going north. I don't know about going south, because you're going to end up putting a street in. It's an old asphalt, 16 feet wide? It's not two cars. It's not two cars.
Going north is a one-way.
That's a
It's
one-way.
narrow, yeah.
I live there, I know how right that is.
It's a very expensive undertaking, and I understand some of it. You know, we're in a 16,000-foot facility, and we're wanting to over double to a 33,000 square foot facility, which lowers our per square foot cost, but how much of that facility is actually going to be used versus what's just going to be sitting there as storage or what have you. And that's why I go back to the city council chambers. We're going to tear down a piece of a building to rebuild a piece of a building, but we have thousands of square feet in the other parts of the building that we could use potentially for a city council chamber, you know, and that's my issue is when this came forward, I'm all for it. But, you know, you talk about that, you talk about the street, you talk about, I mean, this could run $15 million. That's not much cheaper than building a new place at 24,000 square feet would be 12 million brand new.
Yeah, but Mr. Schlegel, would you like to tell us what a new place would cost? I don't know if the...
Well, I'm just doing the $500 a square foot.
$500 a square foot.
$12 million for a 24,000 square foot building.
Right, but if we were...
Which is a third bigger than what we have now.
That would be construction cost, but when you
Yeah.
put everything else in it, I think we looked at that in this price, and you're probably looking more like 25 million.
Then the 500 is not a realistic number? Is that what you're saying? Because you wouldn't have to build a road.
That's construction number. So
Well,
by the time you put everything else in it,
Right.
it's...
Double it? Could we double it?
It would double what you've got on
It
that
could.
board.
Sounds heavy.
That's expensive, no matter what. So,
I'd like to.
you know,
Well, you know, I was on the council a million years ago, well, not quite that, 1,000 years ago, and this building was old and decrepit and needed to be replaced then, and that was back in the late 80s. And it's still old, it's even older and more decrepit, and still needs to be replaced. But I'm having a tough time with this money, really tough time. Now, I know we're not to that point yet of making that decision. I fully understand that.
Right.
But just up front, if we're talking about money, I'm having a tough time with this money.
well, we know it's going to be expensive, but, you know, this is kind of maybe an opportunity, and we maybe work really hard at it to see if we can get it done. I don't know what we do if we can't get out of this building as far as City Hall goes. So things aren't going to get more modern or easier to use, or especially our police, our public safety place. So,
We screwed all the criminals, we don't need them.
If we have a salary board, chief, we can't even do a perp walk.
I did not know that was something we were looking at.
I agree. This building needs to be replaced. when this idea came up, the original numbers that I was hearing was, 7, 8 million, maybe 9, and now we're pushing 15 possibly when you add in the street and all, and I'm like, that's a hard number to go out and sell to the public in a town that's, for all intents and purposes, it's a town full of people that are struggling. I mean, 76% of our children are on free reduced lunch. I mean, it's not a town that's reaping with a bunch of money. So, and it's a facility that is going to be way bigger than what we need, and that might be good maybe down the road, but it's going to be a hard sell.
How would we fund this, Bruce?
Well, when we looked at the 13 potential million at this point, and we realize that's a budget number, and we would look at using a lot of different things, but let's just say 13 million at this point. We, through budgeting, as you know, we've been putting money away for this project. And through looking at those dollars and numbers and where we think we'd be in another year and so on, we believe that we're somewhere in the neighborhood of being able to put down $5 million cash. That would leave us borrowing $8 million. And we have, identified the funding source, which we put in place was the use tax. And we have, I think, 6 years left on the pool project. But we looked at saying, okay, if we had roughly $500,000 a year in the use tax, what would that get us to pay that off? And part of that, as you know, it all depends on interest rates. But, so we looked at that by saying, what is it going to take $8 million, having $500,000 a year be able to, for a payment? And so we already looked at 25-year and 30-year cycles dependent on interest rates. And so we're either looking at being able to pay that off in 25 or 30 years, depending on what the interest rate would be at that time. So $5 million down, borrowing $8 million, we can make that work through the use tax.
So the taxpayer is not going to have any direct increase in their taxes based on this?
You would not increase property taxes at all for this. There would be no vote necessary for that.
Where do we have $5 million hiding?
That's what I was gonna ask. I know we've spent a little bit here and there saving, but
Yeah,
$5 million.
as we said, we've been putting that away for time, and through what's already in the capital project fund, plus what we're putting in this year and projected for the next year, we think we can make that number.
So other projects would just not, it would just be other projects that wouldn't happen because that money would go for this.
Not for major capital projects, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You would still have all of your typical funding projects that you
stuff,
do,
yeah.
that you already do. Because the last major projects we did was the pool. That was our first project.
The other half of this is how's the other half of the property coming along? And how's that going to be funded? It's kind of 30 million, isn't it, or so?
I think that might be on the light side.
That's it, or so.
As council, I think if you remember, we did put $750,000 in this year's budget already, which is already blocked off. That was what we considered our initial upfront cost for purchasing demo and whatever. I don't know that will be enough for that, but we don't know. Where we're currently at with the hospital situation is that we know what their square footage, we know roughly their price. We have a tentative lease operational agreement that we're looking at, but it really comes down to their cost as far as being able to what they can fund and what they can pay. They have hired the Forvis Group, which is putting all their numbers together. That report will hopefully be done in the next few weeks. And they are looking at, which jointly with the Health Committee that Boone Health would pay for, would be hiring a financial advisor. And that financial advisor then will identify all of the funding sources and how to make that happen. For the building that they're looking at, there are options to fund it. And ideally, the structure that they're looking at would be similar to what they have in Boone County right now, which is that the county or the public owns the building and they lease it, and their lease payments in full would pay the payments on that. And we've always went into this with the idea that our costs as far as purchasing and demo would be rolled back into that, so that in essence, we would get those dollars back.
Well, I'm all for this project. I'm not sure I'm all for what numbers he has for you, but I think that before we build a brand-new city hall down here, we need to know what the rest of that campus is going to do. I think as far as the people of Mexico, I'll bet you, if you went out on the street, they'd be more interested in a new hospital than they are in a new city hall.
Oh, there's no doubt.
No doubt.
They'd be like, put that $5 million to a hospital.
So, I'm not objectional to what we're talking about at all.
Right, no.
But I'd like to see the paperwork for the other side come along so we can say, this is a campus. We've talked about this being a campus of all this together. That's just my word.
I've got the same note made here about the hospital. I'm assuming that all of this takes place if we get a contract with Boone for a hospital. If we don't get a contract with Boone for a hospital, this all goes away.
That's what you all have to decide. That's your policy decision to make.
Okay. And the other question I have is, have we made any kind of a deal with the county as to what it's going to cost us to buy this particular cancer center building, or are they going to, is that something we're negotiating, saying we think you ought to give it to us for free for the administrative work we're doing? How's that working?
Yes.
Yes.
That is all in discussion yet, as far as how that would all piece out. Because there's certainly a cost to this building, but there's also a cost to demo it too, if you had to demo it all. So there's a savings with that as well. So all of that needs to be factored into that. consideration.
And it's- I'm sorry.
In our expenditures for this project, we're going to have to demo this thing, probably.
That's why I moved it up to 8 million, or, the full 13.
Yeah, because the chances of selling this is,
You don't think somebody want to buy this?
well, I'm thinking about starting a fire station, but I don't know.
I got 2 or 3 people in mind that have bought some other stuff in town.
Yeah. 3 people?
They ain't gonna pay top dollar, man.
For cheap buyers.
Don't need any motion on anything tonight, do we?
Well, no, we don't really need any motion tonight on anything. I just think, as we look at this, it depends on what schedule you want to keep it on, and where we want to go with this, but I think we've already built into this knowing that it's not going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen next month, it's not going to happen in the next couple of months. So part of it depends on the track you want to keep it on, but, so some of those other questions need to be answered first before you move with this, but I think what we're looking for tonight is just to say, hey, is this a concept that's doable and workable? And, we've already shared this with Boone Health, and from their point of view, yes, it is. And they want us to be there. They like us to be there. So, because it does help their recruiting as well and having the, public safety next to them. So we can work as fast or as slow as the process takes us, as much as what I can say.
Well,
Absolutely.
Like I said before, I'm all for it. I was for it 40 years ago and I'm for it today, but there's just a bunch of questions that have to be answered as far as I'm concerned. And we started on those, but we got more to go. I mean, the county's paid for the purchase, right?
Right.
Have we been reimbursed that many
We
times?
haven't at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we conceivably owe them $333,000 or something like that, a third of.
And the reason we haven't done that at this point is because if they maintain ownership of all of that and that gets paid back, then we may never have to do that.
Gotcha.
So, but we have to be prepared to say we have to pay our third, so to speak, or whatever, because that is a deal with the county and with us and with the old foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
It says on here, next steps is concept approval by the City Hall. City Council, is the concept what you've written?
I mean, I think there's always room for adjustments, so like we showed in the presentation tonight, we reviewed several options, and this was determined by the staff team to be the best, and we proceeded to present this. But yes, there are other options, other possibilities, should you decide that you'd like to make changes to this.
I'm not trying to beat this up. I'm really not. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm honestly not, but I may be. I got concerns about what's going on in the country affecting cost of materials. I talked to a contractor today, not a contractor that would build this by any means, but they're expecting material prices to go sky high. And how does that, are these costs all today's numbers?
6%.
I mean, I know you've got some contingencies built in here, but it's not, there's 600, and that's not even a contingency. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sure, so like we said, we factored in escalation costs, knowing that this isn't today's dollars, it is forward-looking. One thing I'll talk about in terms of the process, if Navigate was brought on board to help you all facilitate this project, our goal is to manage the budget for you. So if this were to move forward, I'll kind of describe the process we take. We'll onboard an architect, we'll share this information with them, and like we said, this is a concept. So that concept will be validated, and then move into design. So the next big design deliverable, or the first design deliverable, is about a 30% set of documents called schematic design. At that point, we would re-estimate the entire project based on, some more hard information on a piece of paper. At that point, if we're over budget, we go through what we call a value engineering process with you all, where we say, okay, look, this costs more. We weren't expecting, materials to increase so much. Where can we find savings in this set of documents to get you back on track? We do that both at the 30% deliverable and at the design development deliverable, which is about the 60% set of documents. So there are a couple of checkpoints along the way where we go back and we review the cost to ensure that we're in line. One thing I'll say to this too is right now we've tried to make assumptions about what can be reused from the facility, but we've only kind of seen things on the surface. So as we get into this, I think there's also potential that more can be salvaged than we're accounting for in the numbers. So that will get rolled into that sort of initial design phase if this were to move forward.
I don't have a problem with I think we can just try and save some money and maybe do some deals where we look at where we're using square footage, but I don't think you can really move forward until you know what the hospital's doing. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, I think we need a contract.
yeah, I mean,
Go too much further.
Well, I agree with that, but I think if we don't do something that we need to do now, even as expensive it is, what's it going to be like in 5 or 6 years from now? Then what do we do?
Did you look at it 40 years ago? Just like this? I promise you.
It's all pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And you got to look at all the pieces. And this is one we had to develop first.
Right.
So that you had an idea of what was there, what it's going to do, what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Because Chris is right. I mean, when we looked at this 4 and 5 years ago, before COVID and everything else, we weren't looking at these costs.
no.
We just weren't there. And it's just changed that much in the last 5 years. And like you say, who knows what it's going to do with this next round of stuff. So all of those things are issues.
I'll point out on this schedule slide, you can kind of remove the months. What we do with this slide is try to show you the big blocks of time it will take if this moves forward. So regardless of when the concept is approved or when things move forward, we're looking at about 12 months to get a design team on board, to get through the full design of the project and the contractor bidding. We're also projecting about another 12 months past that for the construction duration, and then a couple months to occupy. So just at a high level, even if you said go today, we're talking, 24 to 26 months potentially before you're able to actually move into the building. So just at a high level.
And I wanted to add, one thing about the existing building is when we did tour it with Bruce and the staff, we did get kind of excited about just the way the building lays out from a standpoint of separating City Hall, having its own main entry drop-off area, and then being able to put public safety up on that upper level. So we honestly don't get a lot of existing buildings that we look at that suit itself as well as that building did. Obviously, the apparatus bay is a really important, crucial part of the puzzle. Like I said, we looked at it as a drive-through coming out on Jackson, ultimately landed on the Hort Street. That doesn't mean that there isn't an option, F, right, that we land on. That is the one component that you're going to need to add onto this building is a modern, high bay apparatus bay structure. But as far as the existing building goes, we felt like it really suited itself well for the kind of split function of the public City Hall functions, the private City Hall functions on one level, and then being able to have a separate entry for that public safety. So from that standpoint, it was actually, we were walking through the building like, wow, this, we don't always get that scenario when we start looking at existing facilities.
I think your ideas are great, and I agree. Police station, fire station's been limited for a long time, and this does make good sense, two different entrances. But again, I'm going to reiterate that we need to know what the hospital's going to do with the rest of the property before we can sign this. I think you've done a good job, and it gives us a lot of information that we need, but we need the other side of this ball. We'd just get beat to death if we build a city hall and didn't have a hospital, because that's what everybody wants.
Well, and if you built it and they didn't build a hospital, you'd literally have a city hall and a fire station in the middle of a residential area. I mean, that would be, all that would be there would be around you.
That's why I asked if this goes away, if the hospital
Right.
doesn't sign a contract, does this all go away? I think it has to.
We need that. We need more negotiation with the hospital, but fantastic drawings.
Yep.
Fantastic
Yeah, great
ideas.
job.
Now we got to do some more work on our end, don't we?
Thank you.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move we pay the claims.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to council comments, although we've talked quite a bit, but Chris, you want to talk to us a minute?
I haven't been here. I'm sorry for my absence the last 2 times. I was sick with the flu the 1st of February, and then I was away at a a business meeting in Springfield where I won an award, so.
Congratulations on your award, by the way.
Thank you, and I appreciate the city putting that out too, that was nice. I also would like to give a, say, congratulations to the two basketball teams, they're both playing in state. One's playing tonight, one's playing tomorrow night in St. Louis, so good luck to them, and also, my son's academic team qualified for national championship in Atlanta in May, so city's just rolling along, and now we just need to get Western Smokehouse built. Maybe we can build another Mickey D's out that way, That's all I got.
Okay, Larry.
I really don't have anything except a question, and I'm really concerned about Main Street, Mexico, where we are, and it seemed to be rolling along pretty well for a while, and it seems like it's kind of, is there still a bunch of interest? Who's heading it up?
Yeah.
It seemed like Amy, I think, when she was still here, was kind of the lead person on the thing.
Now it's Gigi, and they are moving, they've met, and in fact, I think what design committee met, are they meeting tomorrow?
We just met last week.
Okay. But they're looking at ordinances and all kinds of things, and the organization committee's trying to bring together their budget and financing, and so, because I think, they're realizing that this is an incremental approach that takes time, and you got to build all that, and it's not going to happen overnight. And so, I think their committees are working hard.
Yeah, they are. And Eric Richardson was on the radio and gave an update just recently, too.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, it was a really good update.
Okay, maybe we could just be kept filled in now and then. That'd be great.
Chris Miller.
I think this thing we presented tonight is fantastic. And now if we can just figure out how to make it work, it'd be a good deal. Other than that, I'm going to have to say, I hope the boys win. I really hope the girls win since my granddaughter's on the team.
Hope they both win.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need them both to win, so they'll be happy at work, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'll take my turn and then give Mr. Schlegel a shot at it. I want to thank you all for coming, for your presentation. That was really a neat presentation. And it's not like the council hasn't been working on this and thinking about it and dealing with it for, what, a year maybe? About a year. And so I know there's still a lot of things to fall in place. But boy, I'm hoping this is something that we can achieve. Let's put it that way. And right now, national politics isn't helping us a lot either with things. Okay, Mr. Schlegel.
I have nothing. I do want to thank Navigate for all their work that they've done on this. This was important to get us to this step, because we've talked about this a number of times, and Mary, you're absolutely right, it always comes back to, well, where are we at? What are we doing? How does this lay out? How does this look? How does this fit? Well, now we have some of those answers, and so we can play that with the rest of the project now and start putting the puzzle together.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to public comment. If any of you want to speak, go to the podium. You have to state your name, and you have to live in the city, and you have 3 minutes. And if not, if there are no takers on that,
Make a motion
then I'm
to
going to
adjourn.
call for adjournment. Okay.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.